can go like it can go either way. It can go either okay, we're being
That's what I'm saying.
productive, or we're being really f***ing counterproductive, and we're just like offshooting into the wrong direction with that. All right, we are recording. So I suppose, introduce yourself, name, pronouns, etc.
Yeah, sure.
General leanings.
Yeah, I'm Ruka. I have a YouTube channel called RukaOnRuka. I talk about like history, politics from like a Marxist perspective. And I guess I'm here to talk about like religion and leftism, specifically Christianity. So I guess like to give like a basic introduction. I'm not religious myself, but I'm someone who thinks that like I believe that religion is something that's like generally like pretty malleable. I think it can like change over time to fit different ideologies, change within context. I think religion is something that is very kind of malleable. So I do think that like, Christianity or any religion really, like Islam, Buddhism, whatever, can be like used, in accordance with like leftist values. I don't see it as something particularly concrete in that regard. So I guess that's like my general stance on it.
All right. Well, and of course, like pronouns too.
It doesn't matter. Just he, him, they, them, whatever. It doesn't matter.
Base sounds good. Okay. My general position on this topic is I basically believe that while it is fine to hold like personal belief systems, I ultimately think that in the long run, if we want to achieve an end state that is leftist in some sense, that is at least based on like a level of like realism and like a data driven perspective, which I think is like something that is like kind of integral to like leftist ideals. I think that we arrive at our positions through both going, okay, is this good for humans, is this bad for humans, and also going, okay, how do we like feasibly achieve this in a way that like pans out in the data. So like like union membership, for example, that isn't necessarily our end goal, but it's definitely good for people, and like we can see that panned out in data when it comes to like benefits they get, pay they get, etc., etc., etc. My issue is that generally, what religion does is that it removes that need for empiricism by allowing people to use faith-based reasoning to come to conclusions. And I think that if we want to achieve an end state as leftists, I think eventually religion is going to have to be excised as a thing that we generally believe in, because that faith-based reasoning is always going to be at odds with empiricism, because you can't empirically analyze faith.
Okay, there's like a couple things I can say to this.
Mm-hmm.
So first of all, like religion and empiricism, there can definitely be a contradiction there, but at the same time, I don't really know if it's a fundamental enough contradiction to kind of, throw the baby out with the bathwater per se. Like, like fuck it. There's like religious scientists or religious researchers, whatever. Like people can have their values. People can have their like religious values. They can also like understand empiricism. Like,
Well, yeah.
Yeah, and the other thing I was gonna say is about like slowly getting rid of religion. So there's like a couple different directions I could go on this. I'll say one thing first. The vast majority of like the world, the working class, etc., are religious on some level. We can't really just be like, we're going to do leftism without religion. If we do that, we're isolating pretty much 99% of every single human on the world, because most of the world is religious on some level. So we can't really like disregard religion, And in fact, like I would say like a lot of like the bases that you want to be targeting, like working class people, they're the ones who are going to be especially religious. Like, so it's like, working class, people are going to be religious. People in the global south are going to be religious. And this has kind of like pretty much been, this is, I don't see this going away anytime soon. There's billions and billions and billions of religious people. And like, even if we try really hard, I don't really see that going anywhere. So I don't really see, a degradation of religion as a feasible, pragmatic, or even like sound kind of stance to go at.
I mean, that's definitely a fair assessment. Again, it's mostly like end goal things that, I'm mostly speaking about. When it comes down to it, a lot of people are religious, especially in the global south, which, we can get to religiosity in the global south later. Certainly. My primary issue is just with the fact that religion does promote like faith-based reasoning inherent to it. There are definitely scientists who are religious, millions of them, billions of them throughout history. There are definitely people who engage in empiricism who are religious. I mean, you look back at, say, the time during the Islamic Golden Age, super religious people making scientific and mathematical discoveries, and a lot of that was motivated by religion. The issue isn't that religion in of itself is like a social force that like gravitates and grabs onto people. It's that inherent to religion is faith-based reasoning. It is the this happens because it just happens. It is the God exists because God just exists in a lot of religions. I think that faith-based reasoning is dangerous because it both allows people to ignore science whenever it may challenge their views, which we do see a lot. A lot of people will just flat out ignore science in favor of faith whenever it does challenge their views. And it also leads to a danger in where someone can easily moralize about a situation by saying this is bad because my God says it's bad. And I think that's a dangerous thing to hold in a end-state leftist society, and I think it is something that we should start to de-emphasize as we gain more people over to progressivism and as we gain more people over to leftism.
Okay, so I guess there's two things I can say to that. Well, first of all, I do understand the contradiction between empiricism and religion. I just don't necessarily think it has to be like a big enough hindrance or contradiction to like, be, I guess, a worthwhile like, adversary of leftist values. Like there is going to be dogmatism, right? Mm-hmm. But I think most dogmatism can actually be combated. Like, religion, like in a weird way, religion has become like increasingly kind of like secular, modernized, like enlightened, etc., whatever word you want to use. Like, religion in general, especially in highly developed countries, has become more and more moderate. Like, it's very rare to find like a Christian who's like, at least like in, I don't know, most of Europe, to find like a Christian who believes like that the fucking earth is flat, the world is 6 days old, like, et cetera, et cetera. Like people are eventually gonna see like empiricism, even if they have their religious beliefs. Like people are not still thinking that the earth is like the center of the universe or whatever the fuck. Like there's obviously those people, but I'm pretty sure this is shown like even in empirical data, the more developed a country is, the more moderate like people like get religiously. This is like one of the reasons why you see more religious fundamentalism in very underdeveloped and unstable countries in the Middle East, and not in places like fucking Norway. Like you're not seeing as much religious extremism in fucking Switzerland because it's a highly developed country. So I think if we're going to do an analysis of this, I think if we develop the material conditions, I don't think religion will be much of a problem at all. Like I don't think like we can say like, oh, look at Finland, it's completely destroyed because people are religious. Like I think if we get the material conditions to a high enough standard, religion will kind of go along with it, like pretty well.
Yeah, I mean, but there also is. Also, I will say I am like a wordy motherfucker. So like,
no, go on.
If I talk on for too long, like I apologize. And also you said that you had a channel earlier. If you like DM that to me after the discussion, I'll make sure to like plug you in the description because I'm liking this conversation. And if you're watching this, I just hit my desk. If you're watching this, go in the description and subscribe to our kind friend talking with us now. But I will definitely say, even with like the development of nations, you even see like a lot of the stopgaps that we do get are based in religiosity. Like I'm going off of the United States for this as an example. I don't know if you're American or not.
I'm American.
You are? Okay. What state, if I may ask?
I'm Texas. Like I grew up like in the fucking Bible Belt. I know all the crazy religious people you're talking about,
Oh
but
yeah, yeah.
I think there's like more fundamental issues in like the religion itself.
Yeah, I mean, I definitely get that. I grew up in fucking North Carolina myself. Fucking still live here.
Yeah,
Um,
if there's like a quick question I could ask you,
mhm,
like if you had to assume, so let's take two people of the same religion,
mhm,
a Muslim living in fucking Iraq during the Iraq War,
mhm,
and a Muslim immigrant living in Switzerland.
mhm.
They have the exact same religion. They follow the exact same faith, the exact same sect, the exact same religion. But one of them is going to be way more radical than the other.
Mhm.
Why do you think that is if they follow the exact same religion?
Well, it's kind of simple. There are different material conditions affecting them, but I don't necessarily think that changes in material conditions are always necessarily going to bring people to be more progressive always, because there are still, I mean, just like look at people like say Brett Kavanaugh or like Amy Coney Barrett. These people are heavily successful and they are like religious extremists. Material conditions don't always affect someone's belief systems. I would rather strike out the belief system in general to stop the potential for religious extremism to happen, while also tackling material conditions instead of only attacking material conditions and then just like having people just go like, okay, well, I'll still like remain religious. I'd prefer people to be less religious over time as well as improving their conditions, if that makes sense.
I guess like the way I see it, like in a sense, I feel like people. How do I put this? You know, people are gonna be extremist in any situation. They just use religion as an excuse. Like
Yeah.
even if we didn't have religion, people would just use something else as an excuse. So I don't really know if religion is like a fundamental problem here. Like even if you have like a completely secular society, there's still going to be some fucking crazy people with crazy beliefs, but they'll just be using something else to justify it.
Yeah, of course. I want to limit the amount of things that they can use to justify it.
Well, I mean,
Especially like with something like religion, it is really easy to recruit someone into a religious extremist belief system if they are a part of at least a similar religious sect to you. That's why, well, yeah, yeah, like it would be a lot harder if there was like some fucking McDonald's extremist or some shit to like recruit like another worker at McDonald's to also be an extremist of like some kind. Whereas if, which of course I'm being like a little hyperbolic, and you can like correct me with like a better example if you wish.
go
But like,
ahead.
you know, it's a lot harder for that to happen than if it was, say, someone saying, hey, our God says that we should do this. Don't you believe in our God? Do you want to honor our God? Well, you should do this. I think by limiting religion, we also limit a way that extremists can spread their belief systems.
Well, let's do the other half of this though. Like, couldn't we also use like religion as a way to like get people interested in leftism? Like, I know a lot of Muslims who have like who like introduce leftism in their religious circles. Like
Yeah,
I know people who like have like religious and leftist groups. Like, so it is true that religion can be used to pull people to the extreme, but I think religion can also be used as like an introductory to more like moderate leftist values, right?
it can be definitely an introduction to more moderate leftist values, but the end state isn't necessarily going to benefit from having, you know, religion present. That's mostly what it comes down to. It's also, like I've said, that faith-based reasoning. That faith-based reasoning is inherently dangerous.
Well, don't you think like so? Let's go to like a fundamental level. Don't you think a society generally benefits when people like have similar values?
Yeah, generally, but there are multiple ways to get those similar values outside of religion.
Yeah, but like I guess if people do it through religion, I don't necessarily have like this like a huge problem. Like if people get through how do I say? If people get to leftist values like through religion or through atheism or through whatever, I'm more concerned with the leftist values than how they got there.
Well, yeah, I'm glad that they're leftists, but again, there is like that inherent threat of religion being used in the long run to potentially harm leftist values or a leftist end state through faith-based reasoning.
The thing is, I feel like, uh, hmm, I feel like there's a lot of like atheist, like there's like let's talk about something that's not religious. I
Mm-hmm.
think there's a lot of faith-based kind of argumentation and whatever and dogma, far beyond religion. Like for example, like let's take like race science. Race science is a complete dogma. It's not empirically backed by anything.
Yeah.
But people still treat it like it's the fucking ultimate truth.
Yeah.
So like, the way I see it is like people are going to have their dogmas wherever they can get it. I don't really know if religious dogmas are any more harmful than like atheist dogmas. Like, is a fucking climate change denier like more fucking sound, more empirical, less dogmatic than like a fucking Christian, just because they're not like believing in God?
Well, I think there's a significant overlap between these two groups. I mean, like, you see, like, a lot of climate change deniers are like, oh yeah, well, God would never, like, flood the earth and fucking harm us again, because, after Noah's Ark, he did, like, the rainbow shit. We'll be fine. Whereas, like, if you're, say, an atheist and a climate change denier, someone could just say, hey, well, you don't believe that you're gonna end up fine even if the world, like, floods or if the coastlines fucking go underwater. So maybe look at this data a bit, and you might be able to convince them over easier than you would like a religious fundamentalist on that. Again, it's that faith-based reasoning, which is an extra stopgap to getting people over to good positions.
That's true. But I feel like, let me think about this for a second. The faith-based reasoning is true, but I feel like, I guess the way I see it is, first of all, if it's not religion, people are like still gonna have faith in other stuff, like fucking astrology, cultural values. Like cultural values, like is kind of a faith-based thing. Like if your culture says something is good, that's not like any more scientific than a religion. So like I guess like here's like my question then: what's wrong with religious dogmas compared to any other dogma? Like why is a culture do you think a culture is like more or less dogmatic than a religion? Like they're both like not empirical in any sense.
I think a culture can absolutely be less dogmatic, yeah. Because cultures, I mean, unless that culture is upheld by religion, cultures generally do change over time. You can change a culture because a culture isn't supported by if you try to change anything, you will like burn for fucking eternity in like this torture chamber. Like, it's significantly easier to change culture than religion, which doesn't make it completely easy, but it's definitely easier to move people over on cultural perspectives than it is religious perspectives. You can look at like the suffragette movement, for example. It took a while for people to get over to the idea of women voting, but they still got over to that. Now, try to like convince like an Amish person that women should be able to wear pants, you're gonna have a lot more difficult of an issue.
I mean, the suffragettes, like if we go back to like a lot of these movements, actually, the suffragettes actually used like a lot of their like Christian values to justify this. Like, oh, we're all equal under God, so therefore we should be treated equally.
They did. And a lot of people also used religion to push against suffragettes by saying that it was their natural position as women to just shut the fuck up and stay in the house.
Yeah, so people are going to do it either which way, depending on like how they feel. So I don't know if like religion is really the stopgap here. Like, if I see someone being a shitty person and they're a Christian, I'm not going to think that they're a shitty person because they're Christian. I'm going to think that they're a shitty person just using Christianity to justify it.
Well, yeah, but what if that shittiness is what if that shittiness, I should say, is informed by what they've been taught is their religion? Like, what about like a homophobic Christian that's been taught that like being gay is a sin?
That's true, but as I said,
go on. Sorry.
No, you go.
Oh yeah, like granted, they're still being a shitty person, but they think that their shittiness is informed by their religion. They really don't know any better in that circumstance because that's what they've been taught all their lives.
So, yeah, that's true. That religion, I guess like the two things I'm trying to like kind of nail down is that I do think religion can very much, change and become very liberal, very progressive, depending, on where we are in the world, what the material conditions are. I guess the other way I feel like people, there's always going to be people who are going to try to substitute their nonsense with like dogma. Like, for example, let's take like an atheistic fucking society, I guess, or like a semi-atheistic society, like fucking Nazi Germany. Mm-hmm. Like those people are going to be fucking more dogmatic than fucking, anyone. But they're just going to use some other fucking shit to like justify it.
Yeah, they used religious hatred. They hated Jewish people to justify it. Because they Jewish people are like an under race.
Yeah, but like you know what I'm saying? Like even like the fucking atheist in the Nazi Germany fucking shit, like they had the same beliefs. They just used other stuff to justify it.
Yeah. Hold up.
So
Oh well, no, keep going.
there's like another topic I was going to talk to you about after this when we get done with this section. So I guess like the main question I'm going to be asking is like, what makes religion different than like any other kind of faith-based dogma? And if it is not different, then should we attack like all these other dogmas like equally?
Yeah. I would like to say that, according to the United States Holocaust Memorial Museum, the vast majority of Germans were actually Christian during the Nazi era, with 40 million Protestants and 60 million Catholics. So, there were a lot of Christians, in, in Nazi Germany. Like, a lot of, like, 40 million is more than the population of Canada. So, in like
I was talking about like the government, but yeah.
yeah, yeah. Okay, a
But
census
like,
in May 1939, 6 years into the Nazi era, after the annexation of Catholic Austria and mostly Catholic Czechoslovakia into Germany, indicates that 54% of the population considered itself Protestant, 40% considered itself Catholic, and 3.5 identified as Gold, Gold, Gottliebig, which is Nazi religious term for a form of non-denominationalism. Yeah. Yeah, Protestants voted for the Nazi Party and made up its membership more than Catholics did. So yeah,
but even,
Nazi
like,
Germany was like significantly religious.
yeah, but like they use like fucking like what I'm saying is like they didn't use like they didn't like just use religion to justify their shit. They use like fucking race science, eugenics, whatever. Like
Yeah.
they'll use like whatever. It's like, and like even with that said, like at that, like what I'm trying to nail is that I think like the material conditions are really like much more important than on every single level. Because let's take Germany. During that same time period, you had like the Orthodoxy in Russia, which was like vehemently anti-Nazi.
Mm-hmm.
Like they're both fucking religious, but one's like against the Nazis, one's for the Nazis. So I think that kind of shows there's like a bigger problem here. Like, why is it that the Russian Orthodoxy sided with the Soviets, and the Christians in Germany sided with the Nazis?
Well,
It's
kind of because like the like the Soviets weren't necessarily the most liberal state when it came to allowing dissenting opinions, but also
yeah, but
because the
like
Nazis were assailing upon Russia. So
well, yeah, like so. What I'm saying is like people are gonna side like with whatever shit they're said, but they're just gonna use religion to justify it. Like you'll have like a religious person like fuck it. Like I mean the Jews were religious, right? And they used like their religion against Nazism as well. Like people are gonna use their religion for many different values. They can use it for leftist values or not.
yeah, my thing is about this. It's just I would prefer people not use their religion to promote progressivism. I would just prefer people not have religion and then just be progressive. I think religion is kind of useless in being a progressive. You don't need religion to be a progressive. And I think that religion plays an inherent danger to progressivism.
Okay, so this is kind of like the second topic I want to get into. So as like right now, I know that you're talking about like the end goal, but like in the world where we live right now, I do think religion is an extremely useful tool for like engaging with masses of people about like leftist ideas. Like like it's easier to like get like a Christian into socialism if you're like, oh, God said that we shouldn't like fucking do usury on our loans. God said we should give to the poor. Like you can kind of like introduce people to leftist values while integrating it like with their faith. Like I do think that's something that can be very useful depending on like where you are.
Well, yeah, but I also think like I mean, you mentioned usury, which I'm not accusing you of fucking anything, but I also think like even using religion in order to get people into leftism can be dangerous. Like if you were to use usury as an example to like Christians, they might say some like they might go, okay, yeah, maybe the modern system that we have right now is really predatory against people. Or they also might go, usury and banks. You know who controls, like, it can go, like, it can go either way. It can go either, okay, we're
That's
being
what I'm
productive,
saying.
or we're being really fucking counterproductive, and we're just like offshooting into the wrong direction with that.
That's kind of what I'm saying, though. Like, you can use religion to get whatever values you need.
Well, yeah, but it's also the issue of how do you get people into these end goal values. I think that religion poses a, and I've said this a lot, but I
No,
do
go
think
on.
that there's like an inherent danger to using faith to goad people into progressivism. I think that it would be better if we just excise faith, if we encourage people to not have faith anymore so that they can come into empiricism and use that to reach conclusions
Well,
and use that to reach positions.
people can use empiricism and their faith at the same time. Like, there's nothing. I don't think they're contradictory, like, necessarily. Like, you can have a fucking Islamic scholar, a Hebrew scholar, whatever. Like, they can go along with each other, you know. Like, people can use, like, I know people who use their faith as motivation for why they like study or research or whatever. I don't like. I think they can all go along with each other as long as you have the like right conditions set up.
Well, yeah, but there are also like very inherent contradictions in a lot of the things that can happen. Like, say, like the creation myth, for example. It's kind of
Mm-hmm.
difficult to like research things such as like dinosaurs or prehistoric life when you believe in the creation myth. You have to have a level of cognitive dissonance present if you want to do that. You have to both say, okay, this is what my religion says happened, and this is what I'm studying right now, which goes directly against that. And I can either believe what I'm finding with my bare hands and commit blasphemy, or I could continue believing what I believe. And there's that inherent level of cognitive dissonance. I don't want there to be that level of cognitive dissonance, and the only way to really achieve that is to strike out the thing that is causing people to ignore empiricism in favor of personal beliefs.
Well, I guess first of all, it's like people ultimately do pick and choose like what aspects of the religion they like. Like, Christians, they're still fucking eating shrimp, even though the Bible says not to.
Yeah.
Like, they're still having like, people are going to go against the religion when it's convenient for them. So I don't really know if that's as big a problem. Like, a Christian scientist isn't going to be like, oh wait, I have to check out my Bible before I do this equation.
Yeah, but that doesn't mean that there aren't some Christian scientists that might not do that.
Well, I'm sure some, but I think
It has been religion historically that has also been a big enemy to scientific development. Just look at what happened to just look at what happened to Copernicus and Galileo. I mean, they got fucked by religion because religious scholars didn't want to change what they had held for a very long time.
Well, I think that was like, back to material conditions. I think that was like more in part due to the fact that the religious institution was extremely powerful, controlled a lot of the country, and they wanted to preserve their faith in no matter what. If
Exactly.
you have like if you have a secular society, that religion isn't really going to like have as much power to hold on to. Like, if you live in fucking Switzerland, like, the religious institutions aren't controlling the country.
Well, yeah, but I don't really think that you can have true full secularism if people are still religious. I mean, the United States on paper is a secular country, but we effectively, like, a lot of the states in this nation, like, effectively kind of try to operate as Christian theocracies. I mean, we can see that with like anti-abortion laws that have been passed recently. We can see that with the Supreme Court decision to potentially overturn Roe v. Wade. I mean, you can
Well,
have secularism on paper, but as long as religion stands as a power base, it's always going to be a threat to progress. Fact of the matter is, anti-progressive churches are bigger than the progressive ones.
but so I guess like what I'm responding to is religion can also be used as a tool of progressivism. Like, the Protestants, or like the fucking Quakers, they used the religion to like be anti-slavery. The
Yeah,
fucking the Christian socialists in Nicaragua,
yeah.
like, throughout history, we've seen leftist Christian organizations, you know, pretty much throughout history. Like, the Quakers is like a big example. People can use their religion as a force for good. I think just as much as they use it as a force for bad.
I think the forces for good are often a lot more. Let me put it like this. I think the forces for good are far outweighed by the forces for evil. Sure, you may be able to use religion to say go against slavery, but a lot more people used religion to justify colonialism and rapes and genocide and forced conversions of people into their religion. And that's
Yeah,
been
but
happening for centuries, and it's horrific. I'd prefer there not be that justification there. I don't think that one sect doing something that's good automatically forgives the entire institution, because the entire institution is at fault. People shouldn't be able
well,
to use that reasoning in order to justify their atrocities. And I
well,
don't
why are
want
you
that
gonna
reasoning to exist.
why are you gonna group them together? Like, what does a Quaker and like a Christian slave owner have in common?
They're both Christian.
Yeah, but like that's not. But they have completely different
That's
values.
a pretty big, yeah, that's a pretty big commonality. They're both
But they don't
Christian.
really have. Yeah, but
And
they have completely opposing values
not
when it comes to
necessarily,
this.
yeah, when it comes to some things, but those are mostly things that aren't really related to their religion. Opposition to slavery isn't necessarily related to religion. You can easily relate that to humanism or just basic morality. You don't need religion to go against slavery, just like you don't need religion to support slavery, but you can use religion to justify it, and you can use religion to justify the other thing. The only issue is,
You,
it is a lot easier to justify atrocities when you say this is the way the order says it should be, and especially when you have the hegemony. If progressive Christianity was the hegemony in the United States, I might not have this position, but it isn't. Despite the fact that despite the fact that Christians in this nation have a undue amount of political power.
yeah, but I think we should like focus on changing minds before we change the religion. Like
Part of
like
changing minds is changing religion.
I guess like so. Let's say that you're like talking to a leftist or someone who's like interested in leftism. The last thing that I'm going to do is try to change their mind on religion because I feel like that would be very much like alienating to them. Like I don't want to like here. Let me put it this way: I don't want people to feel attacked for their beliefs while getting interested in like leftism because I feel like that's going to make the space feel hostile.
I mean, yeah, certainly, but I mean, generally, and this is like not even religion related, I think that the leftist space is just generally pretty hostile to each other. But when it comes down to it, like, I've had like really hostile stuff, which this is anecdotal. Take this with a grain of salt, of course. But,
No,
like,
go on.
personally, I've had like shockingly hostile shit said to me by like leftist Christians, like even unprompted. Like like a couple of months ago I had talked to like this leftist Christian, and like I basically asked him like, hey, like how do you reckon, like what do you think of like someone like me, like who's an atheist, like what do you think's gonna happen to me when I die? And like they said to my face, like no lie, like I mean you're gonna go to hell, you're gonna be tortured, you're gonna repent eventually, and then you'll be allowed into heaven, but you're still gonna be tortured. I mean, there's like that inherent difference in like severity. Like all I'm saying is like I think that religion is dangerous to leftist values, and then you have people out here who are simultaneously holding the position that okay, this may not be a bad person on an interpersonal level, but they are so morally bankrupt from a religious level that they are going to be tortured until they fucking repent. I think that is I think that is very much so contradictory to leftist values. But again, it's anecdotal.
Yeah, that's true. But like, I guess the way I always feel is that like, there's probably more problems with that person than just their religion. They probably just fucking, I don't know. They probably just hate you for something. Like people, like there's going to be some Christians who are going to be hearing this and saying like, oh, I would never say that. Like I would never believe that. And there's also going to be fucking crazy people. There's another question I was going to ask you about this.
Mm-hmm.
So this is like we can stay on this topic if you want to. This is like related. So I guess one thing I'd say is like I know that they're talking about like how this is going to be in the future, but let's say like you're fucking president. Like how would you move a society towards like no religion? Like I don't know how this would be done in like a peaceful, harmonious way. Because I've seen fucking states try to do state atheism in the past, and it hasn't been very pretty for like anyone.
It's quite simple. I'm going to keep religious freedom, but I'm going to stop giving tax breaks to churches. I'm just going to force them to pay taxes.
I don't think that's going to...
And well, the way they get their tax breaks back, they have to be involved in the community without promoting their religion. Like, they have to do community service work, but that community service work has to be like a proper charitable organization. They can't promote their religion through it. They can use their donations to do that charity work, but they cannot use it to support their church. They can use like tithes and shit to support their church, but if they want like their tax breaks, they better open up an actual fucking charity.
Well, I mean,
It's that
there's
simple.
places are.
Because like
I don't know.
sorry, I'm about to finish up. Because through that, I would like promote a benefit in material conditions while also reducing religious spread through that. So I'm both making people's lives better and also de-emphasizing religion from that. I'm making it more community-based instead of faith-based.
Well, I guess for one thing I'll say, there's already like religion, like there's already religious institutions that are in the world that get taxed, but they're still like pretty fucking thriving. Like I'm pretty sure. Let me Google this really quickly. Hold on. Hold on. Hold on. I was gonna say is like there's countries in the world that do tax religious institutions, like religious stuff, and religion is still like very like prominent. Like people are still have their faiths, and so I guess like one question I have about that then is, do you think people, do you think these institutions would do less charity if they were prohibited about doing it like on the basis of religion? Because I guess the way I feel, like a Christian organization would probably be less inclined to do like charity if they had to do it on like without religion.
Yeah.
Like they would only want to do it if they had the religion.
Yeah, I do legitimately think that a lot of them will just stop doing charity. Which is also why we're taxing them. If you want your tax breaks, do charity without promoting your religion. If not, fuck you, you're getting taxed. We're tossing it back into the community anyways.
Sure.
I think that a lot of religious charity is birthed out of predatory means of like spreading religion.
Yeah, I guess I can generally agree with that. But, I guess like another big thing though is like, how do you stop people, because even with this, people are going to still pass on religion to their communities, their family, their friends, etc. So I feel like, unless you like actually take like a hard line state atheist approach, religion is going to keep on manifesting in your society. So I feel like, state atheism, state secularism, like even in a perfect sense, this can't really be so if we have like true leftist values, we're going to be like promoting, individual freedoms and stuff like that. The only way you could like become like a full force atheist society is if we do like some fucking North Korea, USSR type shit and be like, yeah, all this shit's just fucking banned under the fucking, just ban it.
Yeah, I mean, I'm not for banning religion. I just want it to become less important in people's lives. And I think an easy way to do that is just to like emphasize the community over religion.
But a lot of people get their community through the religion though.
Yeah, I want to build better avenues through getting community outside of just religion.
Yeah, I guess I just feel like religion can be used as like a very good unifier amongst very different people. Like people, you go to fucking church, you see a bunch of different people, but you have like one goal, one thing that unifies you all. So that can give you like a sense of shared values.
Yeah, but it can be like the same thing in like a neighborhood, for example, or like a school or a team or like a sports team, etc., etc., etc. There are like a lot of things that people can unify behind. I think having the one that is kind of like faith-based that people unify behind is not as good as something that's like, hey, let's like go down to our local park and like play ball, and if we see some trash on the ground, we'll like pick it up and toss it in there because we care about our neighborhood.
Yeah, that's true. I guess there's like some final things I guess I can say. I do think though, don't you think this can like sometimes border on cultural erasure? If you're gonna be like, like let's say someone who's like Jewish Someone's like, this faith is very important to me. Like my fucking ancestors have died for this faith, et cetera, et cetera. Like this is something very important to me, and it's always going to be important to me. I feel like to say that you should just disregard that can sometimes feel like cultural erasure. To give like an historical example, during the like fucking conquistador, let's say colonization, for example. As you said, Catholics used like the religion as a justification, for colonization. But during that process, they did the other thing where they destroyed indigenous and African spirituality, and they lost a huge portion of their culture, like do that. Like the death of like indigenous spirituality was a huge detriment to their culture and their identity as a people.
Yeah.
So I feel like, yeah, go on.
Yeah. Oh no, you go ahead. I was just like saying yeah to like,
No, I don't have anything else to say. That was it.
Oh, yeah. I mean, like, definitely the thing with that is also, like, yeah, there are a lot of cultural identities tied to religion, but you can be, like, culturally something without being religiously something. Like, there are a bunch of people in the United States who are, like, culturally Christian, but not, like, religiously Christian. Like, a lot of people celebrate Christmas, never step foot in a church in their life, That's an example of that. And even then, it's also, like, yeah, Catholics did use religion, and Christians in general used religion to oppress marginalized groups, but that doesn't mean that those marginalized groups also didn't have harmful aspects of their own religions. Faith-based reasoning in general is bad, whether it be coming from Christians, Buddhists, Hindus, Sikhs, etc., etc., etc. Faith-based reasoning is an inherent issue to it. I think that we should de-emphasize all religion, but not violently, I think we should allow people to build community ties through other avenues. If they want to keep cultural affects from their religion, keep it. Do it. If they want to stay religious, keep it. Do it. But at the end of the day, faith-based reasoning is not going to be compatible to a leftist end state. Fundamentally, it will never be. If we want to have a state based on empiricism, and if we want to have, and I'm not saying state like to necessarily mean like country, I'm saying state to mean like, like state of being. If we want to have a state based on empiricism, if we want to have a state based on reason, I think that faith-based reasoning is always going to be a threat to that.
Okay. Honestly, I do kind of agree with this then. I'm not... I guess there's a few more things I can hit on. But, honestly, I'm kind of agreeing with you a lot on this. But, so I guess, like, one thing I can ask, do you think it's okay for a parent to send their kid to a, like, religious school?
Hell no.
What? Really? Why not?
It's predatory. I don't think that you should be forcing religious belief systems on children. Especially, like Catholic schools, like, for example, Catholic schools are fucking horrible. Like they are, like, rife with abuse of children, I mean, Catholic guilt is, like, a meme. It's, like, a meme for a fucking reason. Like, and that goes with, like, all religions. Like, if I got sent to, like, a Protestant school, I guarantee you I would fucking off myself, most likely. Like, I could never, even if I was religious, I could never.
Okay. Well, I guess that's what I gotta say for now, but this was a good talk. Maybe we can talk about something else in the future.
Oh, yeah,
yeah. Okay. I gotta go, but this was a good talk. Bye.
Yeah. Wait, before you do, please promote yourself, my kind friend, your Twitter, your Instagram, whatever you use, Snapchat, YouTube.
Yeah. I'm RukaOnRuka. I make videos about history, geopolitics, whatever from a Marxist perspective. I'll link my fucking channel. Yeah. So, goodbye. I gotta go do some shit. I gotta go eat dinner, but good talk.
All right, yeah, good talk. You have a nice day. Thank you again. That was pretty good. I think I did well. That was very fun. I like that. Once again, thank you all for watching. I think that was really good. Thank you all for watching. Yeah, that's how you do it. Again, RukaOnRuka in the description, all their shit in the description. Go follow them. That was a pretty good talk. And of course, all of my links in the description as well. Follow me on Twitter, like and subscribe here. Make sure to hit the fucking bell icon if you want more good shit like this. And I will talk to you all on a different day. Peace.